But we're going to go straight in now to our interview, and my interview with Tracy Durrant. Now, good afternoon, Tracy.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good, dear. So I'm really interested in this book that you've been part of, bringing it to life, and your company, Everyone's a Singer, illuminates Bristol's reggae scene and beyond the baseline, 500 years of black music, black British music. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to give our listeners a little bit of background. And good afternoon, Maureen, proud mama, I know, and daddy there that's listening. So Tracy Durrant of Everyone's a Singer contribute to the significant anthology Beyond the Baseline, 500 years of black British music. Now, this landmark book is published in conjunction with a major exhibition at the British Library in London, both titled Beyond the Baseline. Now, Tracy's chapter explores the historic Bamboo Club in Bristol through vivid narratives and personal interviews. She captures the experiences of patrons who frequented this iconic club and reggae pioneers who shared the stage with legends like Bob Marley. Her writing highlights the club's role in shaping the local and national music landscape while providing a unique space for the Caribbean community. Beyond the Baseline narrates a 500-year of black British music from its roots in the royal courts of King Henry VIII. That's incredible. To its pulsating presence in today's digital age. The book addresses complex themes of cultural assimilation, resistance against institutional biases, and the celebration of black artistic innovation. Complemented by over 300 visuals, the volume includes essays, features, and interviews by various contributors who provide insights into the profound influence black artists and musicians have had on Britain's cultural identity. It's edited by Paul Bradshaw, with introductions from Dr. Alima Gray and Michael Riley. Beyond the Baseline not only serves as an educational resource, but also as a source of inspiration, showing the resilience and creativity of black musicians throughout black history. And I'm sure Michael Riley, he used to be part of Steel Pulse. Yeah, I remember when they first came to Bristol. Mike Bernard Superfly brought them to Bristol, and I remember them in his sitting room, and we all sat around eating fish. This is before they were known. After they appeared, I think it was down at the turntable. Or it might have been at the Bamboo, but that's another story. Tracy Durrant's work in this book reflects her commitment to documenting and celebrating the contributions of black British music pioneers. Her ongoing work with Everyone's a Singer CIC to integrate music, culture, and community well-being resonates strongly with the themes explored in her chapter. Now, Everyone's a Singer is an award-winning music for well-being initiative, and that emphasizes the transformative power of music for the community well-being and personal growth. Led by Tracy herself, Everyone's a Singer CIC organises intergenerational workshops and events that delve into the well-being benefits of music and storytelling, reinforcing the cultural and historical significance of music within our communities. So there's lots of information which we'll give out at the end, where you can get more information about this. But just looking at this book, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating, and I'm already kind of thinking, I've got to get my hands on this book. I mean, the cover is very inviting, but let's start with, enough about me chatting. I want you to tell us, let's start at this part here for well-being, and a well-being initiative that emphasises the transformative power of music for community well-being and personal growth.
So thank you so much for the invitation to come and talk about this chapter in the book and about Everyone's a Singer. So in terms of the work that we do, we bring singing and communities together, songwriting, and through our work, we see the benefits within the community of people coming together and singing. Now, there's different layers to the work that we do. So sometimes our work will look like people coming together, developing their voice, doing vocal techniques. Other elements of the sessions might include bringing in practitioners from well-being and mental health organisations. So we bring them into the space so that members of the community can have direct access to different organisations that they might not even know about that can support them. So there's a few different ways that we approach our programmes, and then we also are bringing songwriting as well, because there is a benefit to sharing and getting ideas out of our head onto paper, and there is we've seen a lot of benefits to that, and we've got our participants who share with us as well exactly how that has supported them on their personal journey, depending on where they're at and how they come to know about our work.
So you talk about we, so I'm guessing that you've got a team behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a small team, and the team grows and shrinks depending on what we're doing. So as I mentioned, we work with different age groups. So some of our work is with young people, some of it is with older people, and some is a mixture of the two, bringing older and younger people together to have conversations about music and how we use music within our community, within our families, how we might go to certain music for to uplift us, or how we might go to certain music when we're feeling differently. So that is kind of some of the work that we do.
So
I say we a lot, but yeah, it's we. And also when I mentioned that the team, it grows and it expands. Some of our projects have a lot of other partners that come in, and we're very keen to collaborate with other groups. And then sometimes it's a smaller group. So yeah.
And you're based in London.
Yep.
So I want to know a little bit about you, apart from the fact that you come from royalty, you come from a wonderful family background, and you were encouraged to kind of stand on your own 2 feet and to really take the reins and do something that you wanted to do. So how did you become involved in wanting to do something like this in a journalistic style, in a way, because you're writing, but at the same time, I get where the company, how it draws for so many different aspects around music. So how did you become involved, or why were you drawn to this
Yeah, that's such a really good question. So I do think that a lot of that comes from growing up here in Bristol and being around community building from a young age. So having the opportunity to be in spaces like the Malcolm X Centre and watching from a small version of myself, to kind of see what community activity looks like, what it looks like to have workshops and different age groups in a space. So I was very lucky to be around a lot of that growing up, participated in Carnival each year, and the different themes that they'd have, and making things. And so I do think that if I reflect back, a lot of that has influenced how I've come to start and grow Everyone's a Singer.
Yeah. And when did the company start?
So it started in 2019, and it started off as a community initiative, and then obviously 2020 happened, and then a lot of our workshops ended up being online. So in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like it's restarted again last year, but it's been going for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And as things go, but there's been consistency here. How did you get recognised in London?
What do you mean, sorry?
Well, you moved to London, but how did you start to become kind of prominent in bringing this together, and people kind of, as this is an example, with becoming a part of this iconic book that's here and the bigger exhibition?
Yeah, I think that naturally I've always I think when you go to a city and you're not from there, you find yourself going to lots of different places and just trying to meet people and talk and connect and try things. So this is an extension of a journey of lots of other things. So there's been other workshops, there's been other showcases and programs that I've run with support from others, because I do think that everything that you do need a team. Even if you think you're doing it on your own, there's always other people that are supporting you. So I always say we, even if it's me and one other person, but it's always we. And how I've come to meet incredible people is probably just from being curious and trying to help out where I can and being willing to get involved and try things. So that would be how I would say that it was great to come across this opportunity.
It's like if you were in Manchester in the days of the Hacienda, you know, you're in Bristol and you go to London, you're from Manchester, you go to London. So you're taking some of that culture, some of that history that you grew up with. So do you think that there's a fascination at the moment, you know, with Bristol and Bristol's connection to the music scene? You know, we've got people like, you know, Massive and Tricky and Portishead, and they've put Bristol on the map, basically, when it comes to music. So do you think that that helped you to kind of, when you said that you were from Bristol, it helped you to get in through certain doors?
I would say that, funnily enough, wherever I go in the world, there's always someone who's from Bristol randomly.
Tell me about it. I was in Gibraltar once and I was laid on the beach and I was just laid there sleeping, and I heard next to me, "Oi, get that girt thing." Oh my God. And I even knew who it was. I said, "Mike, what are you doing here?" So yeah, there's a Bristolian wherever you go in the world. Yeah.
I think so. And I think, you know, there has been so many people who have opened the doors previously, musically, but also behind the scenes as well. Back to what I was saying with the whole community development side, there's so many things that I don't know if it's a Bristol thing or if it's something that happens when you're in a smaller community and you're able to see more moving parts. But I
mean, it starts off as being very organic, because I think Bristol started off as being very, without even wanting to reach that status of being what it became. You know, it became a victim of its own success, you can say that, but it started off as very organic without the intention for becoming famous, for what it became famous for. If that makes sense. We're going to stop for a track, Tracy, and we'll be back. And we're back. We've got a chat in there, but just to say that I'm speaking to Tracy Durrant, illuminates Bristol's reggae scene and beyond the baseline, 500 years of Black British music. Now, this is also an exhibition. It's up in London. And when does the exhibition, Tracy, when does that start?
It's already started. And so it started the 26th of April and it's running until the 11th of August.
26th of April to the 11th of August.
Yeah, and it was curated by Dr. Ujima, which you mentioned earlier, and Michael Riley. So I want to say a huge thank you to them, because they invited me to write this piece for this book, which is also available at the library and on Amazon and many other places as well.
Well, I'm definitely going to be looking at it. And I just love the colour of the book. I mean, it really draws you in.
Yeah, very vibrant.
Very electro kind of graphics. Moving forward in terms of your career, what's this about? It narrates a 500-year journey of Black British music from its roots in the royal court of King Henry VIII. So where does that come from? What, Henry VIII wasn't playing black music?
No, he wasn't. But in the book, you will see how there has been a contribution of Black African peoples for over 500 years. That's what it documents. So,
of course, there was courtiers, wasn't there?
Yeah, so it covers a lot. So it does cover like the trumpeter. It covers a lot of history. So there's actually 30 different contributors to the book. And then at the actual exhibition, there's lots of other additional contributors who have donated items to the exhibition. So there are, to go along with the conversation around the Bamboo Club, there are some items there that are on display. And I can share with you what those images look like. But obviously go down and have a look at it. But there's also other pieces, like there's a piece on the St. Paul's Carnival, like the original program, and that's there as well. And it's, for me, just walking around the exhibition, there's lots of snippets of history for you to then go further into. So like you said, what is this Henry VIII connection? What is that? There's items there. There's pieces of music there. There's cassette tapes. There's vinyl. There's many different genres. And you kind of walk around the exhibition and you get a taster of what that contribution has been over, 500 years. There's a lot to take in.
Which part of London is the exhibition?
So it's in King's Cross. So are you familiar?
No, I'm a Bristolian, a proud Bristolian. So London for me is, if I've got to go there. Actually, I've got a membership to the Tate Modern, but I haven't been up there for a while. I've got lots of friends up there, but no, So King's Cross.
Yeah, it's in the British Library, so it's quite easy to get to. Yeah.
Okay. Is that, which line is it on?
Oh, I should know, shouldn't I?
I'm asking these questions for our listeners because.
So, the Northern Line.
The Northern Line, okay.
But let me just double check.
Okay.
But there might be there's more than one connection to King's Cross because there's a lot that goes into that part.
Yeah.
So that you've got the Eurostar comes in there. There's lots of different stations.
Okay. We'll find it.
You'll find it, yeah. If
not, I'm just
looking.
I'm just looking at one of the posters that is on the page 190. This is your page, the Bamboo Club. Tony and Lionel Bullimore founded the Bamboo Club in 1966. It was a pioneer in West Indian entertainment centre that hosted icons like Bob Marley and Jimmy Cliff until its closure by fire in 1977. It was opened against the backdrop of the 1963 Bristol bus boycott, which led to the Race Relations Act of 1965, when there was still racial discrimination in public places. So I'm not going to tell you too much. I will add, though, according to club member Sonia Burgess, you couldn't just walk into a pub, you'd probably get beaten up. Uptown, often the guys on the door would tell you that the club was full. They had reached their quota of black people. So that's just a little taster, because you go on to, you call so many different names. I'm seeing names here like Joshua Moses and the domino tournaments and other names, and you've pointed out you've done a great research in bringing this together. DJ Hank Durrant, but this poster, I love it. The big show of the month, Saturday the 26th of February. I wonder what year that was. It's probably around the middle 70s. The fabulous Leroy Smart singing all his hit recordings, backed by the great Black Slade. Sounds by the great Count Shelley. The Top Floor Special. Hank's Hi-Fi, the great Rocker Special. Come early, doors close when main full. When it's full. I just love it. So, as I said, it must be very satisfying to bring this project, to full circle. You're back here in Bristol, and you're talking about something that your parents went to, that family went to, and you grew up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I've heard about the Bamboo Club, but when you're then talking to lots of different people and finding out what this club meant from their perspective, it opened up my eyes to a whole different world of, I never really thought about what it would have been like at that time as a young person going to a club, how that experience might have been different. And also just going into to public spaces, what that would have been like for them versus us today. And there was also, I want to say, a huge thank you to everybody who let me interview them. That included Yvonne Mills, Sonia Burgess, Basil Russell, Larry Stabbins, Loxley Gucci from the Cimarrons, and my dad, Alfred Durrant, because everybody shared a different perspective, and I felt like there's just must be so much more. And I'd love to connect with any of you who are listening that might have your own stories of the Bamboo Club, because one of the things that came out of the launch of the exhibition is that this is supposed to be something that inspires people to go and do even more research so that we can bring more stories together. And that's something that at Everyone's a Singer we're quite big on. We want to collect more stories and share more stories across different mediums. We are primarily music, but we do films, and we want to look at how to share more stories. And so, yeah, if you do, then please do reach out to me. You can reach out via the website, everyone'saSinger.com, or hello@everyone'saSinger.com. And yeah, so it was really interesting, and just to kind of like how one story can like spin off into others. So I feel like everybody I spoke to probably has a book worth of a story. And I think the biggest challenge was how to edit it down to 2 pages, because I felt everything was like, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. Wow.
There's still so much out there.
Yeah. Even just painting a picture of how the venue looked, what it was like when they went in, the different rooms, the different spaces, obviously the music. But I think even beyond the music, what that space was for, what it symbolized for the community, of how different groups would come together there, like cricket clubs and, you know, dominoes clubs. And it was more than a music venue, but it was a music venue as well. And so many pioneers performed in that club here in Bristol. So it was just amazing to just kind of go down some form of, it's not my memory lane, but to go down a form of it
vicariously through others' stories.
Exactly. And then even with one of the stories, I mean, please do read the book, but other stories where Loxley was sharing just the trip down from London to Bristol. And again, it's like thinking about how that would have been back then. You know, loading up the car with what you need as a musician and coming down here and performing every other week or quite frequently. And he came down with Bob Marley, and it's like, wow, these are amazing stories. And I find that definitely within our community, we have incredible storytellers. If you can have the time to just listen, and then it's like, wow. And sometimes I think, sometimes I don't know if people realize how great their stories are. And that's the thing with storytelling, though. When you've had a lived experience, you just had that lived experience, and then it becomes a memory, then it becomes nostalgic. And what we see, I mean, when people talk about the Bamboo, I started going to the Bamboo when I was 14. The Dugout Club, you just went to these places. So it wasn't a case of being anything other but being in the moment. So later on, it's fascinating to see the interest that's coming out of these stories, and people talking about, through nostalgia, people talking about their experiences. One thing that I wanted to touch on was that you have to remember that back then, as Sonia went on to say in the book, Sonia Burgess, she went on to say that we weren't welcome in places. You know, we talk about Paul Stevenson. He wasn't welcome. Roy Hackett. They were the generation before that. They weren't welcomed into pubs and places where black people were just not, it just wasn't for them. So this is where the blues and the shebeens came out of, and places like the Bamboo Club. They were born out of a need to bring people together.
And I think you could speak to any of the elders that would talk about the tradition of carnival back home and how carnival, you know, how it multifaceted into what we've got today. It loses its story along the way because we're in a different generation. But I think what's wonderful about this is just looking at the pages that you're transformed, as you were saying, into a golden age of innocence. That's what I would say. One other thing I was going to mention, and that was the way that people came together from the black community, and how they came together. What made it a unified effort to really create a space that wasn't what we've got today. You know, we don't have spaces today. We don't have our own spaces. Bristol used to be so rich, which you probably know about. You know, there was, at one time, I think there was the turntable, there was the Dominoes Club, there was the Bamboo, there was the Dugout, that was up in Clifton, but there were so many places. And then any night of the week you could go down City Road and there would be something going on. And on a weekend you'd have a blues in probably, you know, most of the area around St. Paul's. There was always something going on. Okay, people will say that, okay, it's nostalgic. But, you know, it's comforting to know that we now got a generation, someone like yourself, that is seeing this and really honouring that golden age. We're going to stop for a track and we'll be back. And and we're coming to the end of the show today, Conversations. You've been listening to myself, Lynn, and we are coming to the end of our interview, my lovely interview with Tracy Durrant. And Tracy, just to say, we were just talking in between the break that your CIC and the importance of being a CIC, so your company, that gives some kind of credibility to how serious you are about what you do. And you've been given an award.
Yeah, I mean, we've been very lucky to be awarded by a few different bodies over the last year.
But the high-profile one was Beyonce, I believe.
Yes. So,
or her foundation.
Yeah. So the Bay Good Foundation last year, when Beyonce came over and did her tour, part of the tour included a parade called the Black Parade, where black businesses were awarded some funding from Beyonce. So we were one of the 10 that was Fabulous. Awarded, which is amazing.
Congratulations, well done.
Yeah, thank you. And it was quite an amazing experience, you know, and we were invited to a dinner at the Four Seasons Hotel, and there was 100 black businesses in the room. And
oh, that must have felt amazing.
Yeah, I didn't really go there with an expectation. I just thought, okay, this is nice Sunday, have a nice lunch. And it was
given a few quid. but
it was really good because you know, that was, as I mentioned, is about a year ago, and Everyone's a Singer has had the opportunity to do so much work within the community that has definitely supported us. The Bay Good Foundation has supported our work, but then we've also done work within the community and had support from the local Mind and the local NHS Trust as well, and really looking at how our initiatives can create an impact and really support people. So when I was talking about how it's good for well-being, we are looking at it from a few different aspects of how singing and the physical activity of singing, as well as the emotional side of it, can support you with your mental health, with your well-being. But as I mentioned, at the absolute basic level is about bringing people together. But there's more to it than that. You see people be elevated towards the end of sessions.
What would you like people to take away from this interview? I mean, apart from the fact that you've contributed to this amazing book and the exhibition that is on from the
26th of April, so it's running now, and it will be running until the 11th of August. And in addition to the book, the exhibition, there's also events happening at the British Library. I know that you're listening to this from Bristol, but you might be listening to it on the internet, and London is not that far away, and it is really good to just see how much of a contribution that the Black community has had on music in this country, because it's never just about the music. It's also everything else that enabled that to even happen. All of the stories behind that, all of the families behind it, the other aspects of culture. So it's through the lens of music, but I think there's so much more to it.
Listeners, if you're interested in the book, you can go to Amazon. If you want to read out those details, how people can get in touch with.
So without me reading the long Amazon link, I think if you go to everyone'sasinger.com and you go to the news, there's a post there, so you can just click through there and access the book from there. And there's also more details about the exhibition from there as well.
And if people wanted to get in touch with you, because I think this is the fact that you're from Bristol, you're a native of our city, and you've got a background of history that goes alongside what you do, as from a community level. So if anyone wanted to get in touch with you to interview you or to get more information, or even to want to be part of your ongoing research, how would they get hold of you?
Yeah, please email Tracy, Tracy, at everyone'sasinger.com. That's one word. And I will get back to you. I'd love to hear from you, because, as I mentioned, it's all about how do we share more of our stories, and it's empowering to hear these stories, because you can learn learn that you're not the first person doing a thing. You can,
I hear you. I hear you. Just to finish, we want to know a little bit more about you, the work that you do. I mean, you've given us a lot of information, but, it's interesting to know about someone on a deeper level. And I know all the questions that I've asked, and you've kind of, I think, fulfilled my curiosity. But what do you want to say about you, and the work that you do, how it feeds you, and, if it does feed you? Because you took a big jump from leaving little sleepy old Bristol, as it was, to go into the big city, and it's incredible, how far you've come.
So sorry, could you ask that again, please?
Just talking about the work that you do. How you're inspired by.
Yeah, okay. So I love all of the work that I do. There are challenges, because it's a lot of work to run a company. But, for example, we did a youth project recently. I don't know if I've got enough time. I've got a few seconds.
Yeah, you're fine.
So we did a youth project where we took 7 young people through writing their own songs, forming a little group together, writing, going to a recording studio, professional studio. So that's a lot of their first experience going to a studio, and then they created their own music videos. They can be viewed on the Everyone's a Singer website. But then once we went through that process, so it was 7 weeks where they went through that journey, they got to see their films in the cinema. So we had it screened at Rich Mix Cinema. And that was amazing to see them go from being kind of like unsure about if they, on a Saturday, do they want to do this, to not really engaging much, to seeing themselves on the big screen and talking on the panel and talking about their experience. So that is a part of why I do what I do. It's how I see the impact of music on people and the joy that it brings, and how it's so good for developing confidence. And that would be on the youth side. But then with adults as well, you see people who you might, people wear different faces when they're out and about, but sometimes they'll come to these sessions and then they might share with you after how that has really made their day, going to work and working hard.
It's
and
like building confidence, sense of self-worth and
exactly.
self-esteem.
So all of that, it's a part of why I do what I do. I love it. I love doing this work. It doesn't, it sounds cheesy, like it doesn't feel like work. But it is work. It's hard. It's hard, but enjoyable. So it's not stressful.
Tracy, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Sharing your experience, and I'm definitely going to get this book, and I'm drawn to it. The visuals in the book, what I'm drawn to.
We are the children from May Park Primary School, and you are listening to Ujima Radio 98 FM.
Ujima Radio.